Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quinville 2-on-1. Right when Carlson comes, Quinville scores!
Here's a chance for Barron. Fighting scores! Off the face-off! Up it's Eminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it. Shoots one. Bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski. Another jam on the shot. Turning and firing. They go! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other. They both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off with Cassie.
And now with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado.
And Middleton, Nova Scotia.
Welcome to the Calder Farmstead Podcast, episode number 26 for Tuesday, April 6th, 2021. If you were hoping for a podcast featuring Scottish sheepdog pen herding training techniques, we are not going to be much help. This is an American Hockey League podcast, and my name is CC Hockley.
And I'm Sean O'Brien.
And as always, we thank you for tuning in with us.
If you're new to hearing CC and I talk about hockey, we're going to recap the last weekend in the AHL for you. We both watch a lot of AHL games. We're going to talk about what we see when we watch the film, as well as use some advanced stats to help us break that down. If it's new to you, you might want to head over to our podcast feed or YouTube channel, wherever you're listening to us from, and check out episode 0. You got to scroll all the way to the bottom, but it's there. It's a short primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about, as well as how we view what's important on the ice. So if you're new to some of the more advanced hockey stats terms like PDO or the point shares model, or newer hockey terms like controlled zone entries, go check that out so you'll better be able to pick up what we're putting down. I promise it isn't that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes. And let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes today laughing at the Jets' return for Sam Darnold. So why not spend a little more time with us talking hockey?
One more quarterback off the market that, we won't get into that because we're a hockey podcast. So we'll leave it at that. Well, first and foremost, we are going to recap the weekend that was, and we didn't have a whole lot of actual series that we recapped because, well, one of our series that we were going to recap in Bakersfield and Colorado got postponed, and those games got rescheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday, the 13th and 14th, but they were supposed to be played this past weekend on the 2nd and 3rd, Friday and Saturday. So with all that said, we're going to start with the Atlantic Division, and of course, the Utica Comets game was canceled. And who was playing them? The Providence Bruins, or at least they were supposed to. So unfortunately, Jack Murray not going to be back on the show to talk about that non-existent game because there's nothing to talk about. So let's get started. Hartford and Bridgeport, they had one game on Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Boy, the Groundhog Day division really likes those afternoon games for some reason. So 1 p.m. Friday, Hartford and Bridgeport. I picked Hartford. Sean said both teams feel like they're spinning their goaltending roulette wheel here, but he felt like Hartford's wheel at least had some dependable spots on it, so he chose the Wolfpack as well. The model picked the Hartford Wolfpack 61.8%. That's a pretty sizable percentage there for the analytics model. And of course, on Friday, we were both right. Hartford coming away with the victory 5-2. Now, a very power play driven result here as Hartford scores 4 power play goals on 5 chances for an 80% conversion click. Holy crow. Shawnee, was this just a power play clicking or was this a penalty kill failing?
I think it's a little of both. 2 of Hartford's power play goals were kind of fluky. One banked off a guy in front from a pass attempt from behind the net. Roning's goal caught Corey Schneider way off his mark. Grant Hutton completely blows an assignment on the faceoff for Hartford's 3rd power play goal. Barron's was a nice snipe, so there's that. And that's not to say this is good results from bad process on Hartford's side. Hartford's power play has good tactics, but I think lacks some of the pieces in the right places to really take it to the next level.
Okay, all right, hold on. Next level, what do you mean by that? Because Hartford's power play, their power play percentage rather, is 5th in the league. So how do you go next level from that?
I mean, I'm aware, but if you look, they have 12 power play goals. 5 of them are from Morgan Barron. And while that's great that you have Morgan Barron, he's really good in the bumper spot. It's bad in the sense that without him, your power play might tank, as he's really doing a lot of the work there. And while he's, like I said, really good in the bumper spot, and I like Gettinger as the net front, Ruonenen's been fine at the point. I think they need a reliable trigger man on the half wall that can be that one-timer threat. And I initially thought that could be Anthony Greco, but having seen Anthony Greco play this year, I don't think that's Anthony Greco. And I think that would be something that would add a level of danger to their power play, so to speak. Whereas, yeah, Gettinger's good as a net front. Barron's very good as a bumper. But without Barron, I worry that what's been successful for that unit is not going to continue. And their second unit really doesn't have nearly the talent that the first unit does. They stack that first unit pretty well. And I think that's, obviously that's the smart thing to do here.
And a little update from the weekend. Hartford, Grand Rapids, and Cleveland are all actually tied for third with a 25% even power play conversion rate. And oddly enough, Hartford and Cleveland, 12 power play goals for on 48 chances, while Grand Rapids has 16 power play goals for on 64 chances. So there you have it. But switching to the penalty kill side of the special teams here, since you said that some of the blame was on them, why is that?
Kind of like we talked about in our last recap with the Sound Tigers, which I admit was a while ago, but not much has changed. Their penalty kill is bad. It's 21st in the league, but even before this game, without taking those 4 goals against in a game into account, it still wasn't good. Their forwards don't communicate well in the shifting responsibility of who's chasing and when. And also, I said last time that Jeff Kubiak is a bad penalty killer and shouldn't be on either unit. And, well, none of that has changed. He's still on their what looks like top penalty kill unit, and he's still really bad at it. So that's going to continue to drag that unit down. Although, to be completely fair to him, none of the other forwards that I've seen on their PK are really that good either. But he is just the most visibly bad, I would say. Their defense are okay-ish, but they don't really have a guy that's stood out to me as being a good penalty killer, which is surprising because I would have thought Tom Kuhnhackl would be able to fill that role pretty diligently. And I don't know, that team very much, I don't want to say that they're not trying, to their maximum potential, but it looks like they are struggling to find motivation in this, weird year. We talked in the preview episode about Providence staying in the groove of the season despite having all the space between games. And I think Bridgeport might be struggling with that a bit.
Yeah. And, Patrick Williams, AHL insider, has written for NHL.com. We've mentioned his name a bunch on the show. Elite prospects writer as well. He was saying that there are 2 divisions. One of them was actually in talks with the league as in regards to a postseason. And the other one, there's another division out there he was kind of alluding to that was pretty interested. And that wouldn't surprise me if it was the Pacific Division. And I couldn't tell you who the second division is off the top of my head. But, I mean, with that in mind, it's like you look at the Atlantic Division, there's 3 teams. And with protocols and health guidelines and local, everything and local, just all the things that stand as a barrier in the way. It's like, even in this 3-team division, it's like a postseason is, like you said, it's just a really strange year. So a postseason probably isn't even going to happen for these guys with Bridgeport and Providence and Hartford. I mean, before we talk even strength with the Bridgeport Sound Tigers, just kind of a little sidebar, a little caveat here. What do you think? Do you think the Atlantic or even the North Division should even try to cobble together a postseason?
I mean, I think that the division that they made there with the North and the Atlantic, where one has 3 teams and the other has, 6, 7? Those seem really arbitrary to me because they're basically 3-team divisions, more or less, that have one crossover game here and there. And I also don't understand that because from a geographical standpoint, Newark is close enough to Providence and Bridgeport and Marlborough we're like, that's still a day bus trip for them. Why are they not getting some of those games? Like, and maybe there were scheduling conflicts and they looked at that and whatever. I obviously don't get to see the AHL scheduling matrix, but like the idea that you could work some kind of playoff system with some of those teams, you know, for a series that, as you know, COVID vaccinations get to be a little more common, that you could see, you know, a month down the road that possibly being a plan. I could see that. Like, I could see a world in which, you know, a month from now we have everyone on the staff and the players all, you know, 2 shots or, you know, 1 Johnson & Johnson vaccination. All of them are, you know, set to go. They can do like a home and home bus trip series to, you know, play Providence against Hershey or Providence against Utica or some semblance of a playoff system. Like, it seems somewhat feasible because all of those teams are still only like, I think at max 4 hours from each other. Like, I could see that working with some improved COVID landscapes, which seem plausible to me. But you're right. Like, could I also see the Atlantic being like, we literally just came here to play 24 games to, you know, collect our consecutive season token and we're out? Yep. I mean, if I'm Bridgeport, I would struggle to find motivation as a player to continue on in what is really kind of a lost season for them, unless you really thought that that was going to give you a shot at an NHL contract with the Islanders or somewhere else beyond. But like, I could see Hartford and Providence just being like, or not Hartford and Bridgeport just, you know, nah, okay.
Yeah, and if there was a postseason format for the Groundhog Day division, I think Providence would be the only one that would be a formidable opponent and would qualify, quote unquote. I don't even know what that setup would look like, but yeah, just kind of spitballing, hypothesizing. I know the end of the season technically is, gosh, really just a month or so away, which is kind of crazy because, like you said, I think last episode, this season has gone so fast, yet dragged on so long. It's just a weird dynamic.
Yeah, it's been a weird one. Like, there are guys who are, you know, have played 10 games, 15 games still. And it's like, I still feel like we're trying to figure out who they are this season. Some, you know, others have played 15 in the month of March alone. So
right.
It's been a weird year. But I think there's a potential for like Providence to play a 3-game series against Syracuse or something. If you could convince Syracuse to do that. I know they were one of the teams vocal in the offseason that were kind of like, we're going to play exactly the minimum number of games in GTFO. So I could see like some postseason series working out, like a best of 3, you know, with 4 teams, say Hershey, Lehigh Valley, the best record from Syracuse, Utica, and Rochester, and Providence, and then playing like a 3-game kind of, you know, 2-2, and then a 3-game kind of Northeastern Division champion, whatever thing.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of a round robin, you know, just bouncing around and doing that kind of thing. I know that, well, we won't go down that road any further. But yeah, last but not least, let's talk about even strength Bridgeport. The Sound Tigers really struggled to generate offense 5v5 in this game. And while that's not new for them this season, did you see anything that gave you insight as to why that's been a problem for them?
Well, we talked about a little bit in the preview about how their defense takes too many low percentage shots from the blue line, and they need to cut those down. Well, it became more apparent as I dived into the tape and saw a little bit more of what, you know, shot maps and analytics showed me, you know, there might be something here. That's where video found me what was there. The Sound Tigers have defensemen that can join in the cycle, join the rush, carry the puck through the neutral zone. Bolduc's capable of that. So is Bodie Wild. I think Van and Sample and Wotherspoon probably are. Maybe Grant Hutton too. But they don't get involved in the offense basically ever. They rarely lead or join a rush attempt. They don't become active in the cycle or even really leave the blue line. If the puck comes to them, it's shoot from distance, D to D pass to set up another shot from distance, or rim the puck back in deep. That's it. Like, and I don't think that they're just sticking to that because they aren't capable of more. I think it's not because it's not part of the offensive system in Bridgeport, and it should be. And I think mostly it makes defending against them really easy 5v5. Those defensemen aren't going to do anything dynamic if they get the puck, and they're not going to do anything dangerous. They're just going to fling pucks from nowhere, rim it around, or go D to D to let him do one of the other options. So you can really collapse wingers and play 5-on-3 below the top of the circles because, the defensemen aren't going to do anything. They're not going to be a threat. And that makes playing defense against them 5-on-5 really easy. And when you watch Bridgeport play in zone trying to, establish a cycle, that's what it looks like. You see a lot of wingers collapsing down on their forwards trying to build trying to get a cycle going or trying to generate offense. And it's 5-on-3 down low. You're not really going to make that work unless you have really talented forwards. I guess then it could possibly work, but that's not how Bridgeport's roster is looking. Hence, struggles.
And to wrap this up nice and neat with a little bow, the Atlantic Division standings, Providence, of course, they actually picked up a 2-1 victory over Bridgeport on Monday afternoon, because the Atlantic Division loves them afternoon games. So Bridgeport 13-3-1, still holding out hope for that 19-20 win season I predicted. And Hartford 6-6-1 after 13 games played. Bridgeport 3-10-1 after 14 games played. So not good for Hartford, and very much so not good for Bridgeport. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll head to the North Division. We're going to go Syracuse and Rochester, and listen to some ads. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back from the other side, and we're going to talk about the Syracuse crunch against the Rochester Americans, and by God, they actually played some games. I mean, holy crow, Rochester actually played some games. So Friday at 7:05 at Rochester, Saturday 7 p.m. at Syracuse. Split home and home. Alex picked the split. Alexandra Ackerman from the Sinbin.net. Unfortunately, she could not be on the show, even though we do have a series to talk about. She had other commitments this evening as we're recording. Alex chose the split. Rochester on Friday, Syracuse on Saturday. I chose that split as well. Americans on Friday, crunch on Saturday. Sean, you said Rochester was they appeared to be reeling rather, while Syracuse is on the upward slope. Barre Boulay is in town right now, and a lot of the top Amerks like Fogarty and D are not. So you chose Syracuse to sweep. And the model chose Syracuse as well, 56.7% on Friday. A little bit of the home ice bump on Saturday, 57.2%. The results were exactly opposite of what Alex and I said. Syracuse 6-2 win on Friday, Rochester 5-3 victory on Saturday. Now, Sean, we talked about it in the preview for Syracuse. To come away with W's, they needed to limit Rochester's power play opportunities. How did that go on Friday?
Pretty well. Syracuse only took 2 penalties by the time the game was 4-1. So the fact they took 2 more and gave up a power play goal on Friday didn't really influence the outcome of that game at that point. I would have liked to see them stay under 3 power plays given to Rochester, but a garbage time penalty isn't anything anyone's going to lose sleep over. Rochester came out looking to lay the body in this game too and was very physical, chasing hits in the first 10 minutes. So good on Syracuse to maintain that discipline early, not retaliate, not get dragged into the parade of the penalty box. Syracuse clearly won the special teams battle on Friday as their power play was absolutely clicking. They scored what was essentially 3 power play goals as John Ludwig's goal went in as Andrew Ogilevy was leaving the box. So it counts as 5-on-5 on the score sheet, but it wasn't really.
Mm-hmm.
Still a great display of using the 1-3-1 and finding Royal Road passes and exploiting when the Amerks PK would get too aggressive up high and then not be able to cover those cross-ice passing lanes.
Now, Syracuse on Friday, like you said, their special teams, their power play rather, was very fruitful in that regard, or at least more so than their 26th out of 28th rank in the AHL would indicate. How did Saturday go for the Crunch in the special teams battle?
badly.
Giving
up a 5-on-3 goal, I won't really harp on them too much for, as it was a nasty high-to-low Royal Road pass to set up a tap-in. I will say that you end up in 5-on-3 because of bad choices to begin with, but there's only so much that dead horse needs beating. Brett Murray's second one, I want to at least spend some time with. It looked to me like Syracuse decided to take a different strategy, and with that ensuing 5-on-4 penalty kill, and took much more of an old school passive tight box approach. And in some aspects, I get it. The Amherst are murdering you on the power play. What you're doing doesn't seem to be working. In that instance, the only wrong thing to do is nothing. So if that's the case, then a small margin of credit goes to the Crunch staff for at least trying to shake it up, do something different, throw something different at the Amherst to try and solve. However, that tight box formation died a tactical death because, as the Crunch learned very quickly, when you give talented players plenty of time and space to solve your defense, they do that. And the tap-in goal from Murray for his second one on that power play was just – it was not a good look, as the Amherst were given just ample time and space. The Crunch kind of just stood their ground and were like, all right, we're going to hope that you can't get the puck through here. And, well – with enough time and space, they will.
Yeah, talent speaks volumes, and enough time and space. That's what's going to happen. So, Sean, any closing thoughts on the Crunch and Amherst series from this weekend?
A few. Grigory Denisenko is definitely coming along in his development. I think he's very likely a top NHL player for the years to come, assuming the Panthers don't somehow screw him up, which is certainly a non-zero chance. His vision on the power play left a lot to be desired in both games, though. He has the raw tools for sure, including a wicked shot, which was very much on display. But he missed some Royal Road passing lanes that were big enough to drive a truck through. And that, should be easily correctable with film. But it was one of those moments where I was yelling at the laptop, how do you not see that? So I thought it was at least worth noting. Lastly, while the scoreboard may not have looked it, I think these games were a lot closer than meets the eye. Both teams are talented enough and have enough mettle to steal wins from games that they maybe don't bring a 60-minute effort in. Case in point, the Amherst D ran into Rifle, pushed a Crunch forward into Rifle, or had a rebound bounce off them that caused a goal on Friday night. Should those moments shake out just a tiny bit different? Maybe Friday's game doesn't flip, but it certainly becomes a very different and much more competitive game. And I also think it's worth noting that that's something you should be working on if you're the Amherst defense. We've talked a couple times about athletic goalies who kind of rely on their athleticism to, come really far out, cut the angle down, and then use that explosive athletic movement to get back into the play when, they get kind of caught with their hand in the cookie jar. And part of that is having a defense who know how to get the hell out of their way, because when you end up tripping up your goaltender when he's 2 feet off the top of the paint, that's almost always a goal. And while I don't know if Rifle is that caliber of athletic goaltender, him getting interfered with by his own team more or less 3 times in the same game that caused 3 direct goals against, maybe that's just a bad game, but that is something to note going forward for sure, for them to be trying to do a better job of, because once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, 3 times is enemy action.
Yeah. I mean, 3 times, that just baffles me. Like I'm having flashbacks of Ian Cole ramming his ass into Philip Grubauer from the Stadium Series last year and just taking him out and him being out for the rest of the season. Of course, it gave Pavel Francouz a chance to shine, to close out until, COVID-19 reared its ugly head in the middle of March there. But I digress. To run into your goaltender 3 times, I don't care if you're pushed or whatever, like, your team needs to protect your goalie. They don't need to run into him and not only risk goals, but risk injury. Because even though in this strange and truncated season, you don't need members of your team, let alone your goaltenders, go down with an injury. Just saying. I mean, not everybody has the benefit of Syracuse, Utica, and the Chicago Wolves and having 2 NHL affiliates pour goaltenders into your AHL team. It's just, you just got to be careful with your goalies. So, I could rant about that for a while. But
I also do want to make one point too of
Sure.
having watched Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, aka Rifle, play a little bit more this season. I don't know if I think he's the goaltender of the future that he's been kind of hyped up to be in Buffalo, like prospect pipelines. Like, I think he could be a really good AHL goalie from what I've seen so far, but there isn't a lot there that I can point to and be like, that's an NHL starter's toolkit. That's an NHL starter's athleticism, explosive movement. That's their technique. Like, I don't know. It's a weird year, and maybe this is just still him trying to find his groove, and maybe next year he'll come out and do way better and make me look dumb here. But it's definitely been a concerning thing from his developmental standpoint.
Completely understandable. Although when you do play the same 2 or 3 teams over and over and over again, that could be, that could play into it as well. But again, this year is just all cattywampus and upside down. So I guess we'll find out next season. Cattywampus. I said it. All right. Well, hey, before we move on to the Canadian division, let's go over the North Division standings after the weekend. Rochester and Syracuse 4-5. Rochester, quote unquote, boasting a record of 7-5-1-1 for 4th place out of 7 teams in the North Division. Syracuse 8-6-1-0. They're actually a point ahead of Rochester, but their points percentage is .004 behind. So yeah, gotta love that points percentage this year. Lehigh Valley still at the top there, 12-3-2 for 26 points. Utica in second place with their 9 games played. Again, gotta love that points percentage, 6-2-0-1. Hershey, most games played in the division, 3rd place, 19 games played, 12-5-2. And then, of course, you had Rochester and Syracuse, 4-5. Wilkes-Barre Scranton in 6th place, 6-7-3-2 for 17 points. And last but not least, or actually last and least, the Binghamton Devils, 16 games played, 3-8-4-1 for a paltry 11 points in the North Division to round out the basement there. So, yes, let's head north of the border. We're going to talk about the Canadian Division Series, the last series that we covered in our weekend preview episode against the long and away best team in the Canadian Division this year, the Laval Rocket, playing once again against the Stockton Heat of Calgary. Friday at 7 p.m. at Laval, Sunday at 7 p.m. at Laval again. I picked the sweep. Sean picked the sweep. The model picked the sweep. Laval 54.2%. Friday, Laval 3-0. Sunday, Laval 4-2. The sweep. We both riding that PDO train up there as we turn in our loonies and our toonies to get another ticket to our next stop. Chugga, chugga, chugga. 2-2. All right. When we previewed the first series between these two, it was billed as a battle for forecheck supremacy, as both had aggressive forechecks and an excellent counterattack rush offenses. That's not the same style we saw the Heat playing, as they've struggled mightily as of late. Did that change at all over the weekend, Sean?
Not really, no. Their aggressive forecheck has really been scaled back. Some of it is probably due to injuries of guys like Pospisil, call-ups like Petro. Some of it is probably due to a good point that Patrick Williams made about the insane number of games the Heat and really all of the Canadian Division teams have played in this season, but especially the Heat. When you play that high-tempo, high-pressure style, it takes a lot of energy each and every night to, go out there and do that. And when they're playing at that regular of an interval, like, that's going to take a toll on you. And I think that's probably played a role in that lack of aggressiveness and a little bit more of a conservative forecheck and not that tempo. That's not to say that the Heat no longer forecheck well or apply pressure on the forecheck, but it definitely is not the same intensity that it was in early March, otherwise known as 15 games ago. For comparison, the Heat played 11 games in March in 18-19. That's not just 4 fewer games in the same time frame. That's also 4 fewer rest days that are also now game days. So it's not exactly an even trade. Meanwhile, Hershey has played 10 games in March. Bridgeport played 6.
Ugh.
Not to mention that Calgary isn't geographically close to any of these teams that they play. by bus, Manitoba is closest, but it's 13 hours away. I'm assuming they're flying to these away games because that's an insane bus schedule. But that's still a lot of travel in addition to the physical toll the actual game takes on you. In addition to you are playing 4 more games per month than you normally would in the AHL in a given month, give or take. Like, yeah, the fact that they've looked a little slower, a little more sluggish, dragging a little bit, that'll happen.
And Sean, I think what also contributed as a factor, at least from my perspective, I know these are professional players and they're, they've trained their bodies to, try to accommodate any and every circumstance that they could possibly think of. But when you have the other 4 Canadian teams starting at least 2 weeks before the Stockton Heat of Calgary did, obviously we talked about it. We won't get into it again. The, schematics and the logistics or whatever you want to call it of literally taking the Stockton Heat's staff and moving them up to Canada over that 2-week period or 3-week period or whatever it was and moving them up there, and then Stockton not getting their first game until late February, and they hit the ground running and they start off hot, but then they keep running at that pace when the other Canadian teams were kind of used to the pace. If you want to compare this to a marathon, Stockton kind of sprinted out of the gate after all these guys had already been going. So, I mean, for what it's worth, that's kind of my observation. And it's like Stockton, like you said, their playing style is fast and heavy. So it's like, that's definitely going to wear you down when you have so many games in such a little period of time.
And I mean, too, you've seen like Manitoba has peaked and valleyed, but they've also gotten, I feel like that Stockton has been rolling with a pretty similar roster most of the year. So they're not getting guys who have, spent 2 weeks doing taxi squad things, but not getting into games, kind of cycling into their roster as much as Calgary's like in a dogfight for a playoff spot. Whereas, Manitoba had Grayovac and Gustafsson, I believe it was. Or Gustafsson and somebody else. It's too many players at this moment. But like they had guys come that had played, like 3 games in Winnipeg, were there for a couple of weeks and weren't getting games. So they sent them down to, get in games for Manitoba. So like they've had more of their top 6 guys kind of rotate in a little bit to pick up some of that pressure and relieve some of that pressure for them. Alex Galchenyuk on the Marlies, they've also been swapping guys back and forth a lot more, giving them, some more breaks and active taxi squad players to get sent down and actually get some games in if they haven't been playing. Laval and Montreal really haven't been doing that as much, but I feel like that's more of just whatever's in the water in Laval is working for them. And again, Laval to Belleville, Laval to Toronto is not the same thing as Calgary to Toronto, Calgary to Belleville, Calgary to Laval. So I think that is always something that was going to be stacked in the deck against Stockton for this. And the fact that it's starting to catch up with them, we try and heap on these guys are the peak of athletic conditioning, but also they're still humans.
It's very true. That is very true. You can't deny that travel factor, and you can't deny just you can't deny the fact that the AHL has tried to accommodate every team as much as possible with these 4-game sets, in these home arenas. But again, when you're traveling to Manitoba and then Ontario and then Quebec, it's just, it's gonna catch up with you. And the proof is in the pudding for Stockton. Let's go to the ice. Let's talk about actual gameplay here. What was the story behind Laval's win on Friday?
I mean, don't get me wrong here. Their forecheck did a fair amount of the heavy lifting, but they also didn't give Stockton basically any chance to sustain offense. They won battles in corners, they got on rebounds, and they clearly had a team speed advantage here, which allowed their D to go glass and out and let wingers just have a shot to get pressure, force a turnover, or make a clean recovery on that glass and out. Like, that's not usually a viable strategy. Is team speed, is still an important factor, but it's usually not that great of a speed differential where you can just walk around guys. And Laval definitely had that. They could also effectively chip and chase because that speed advantage, they could add wingers just blowing by defensemen and making recoveries a pretty good percentage of the time. They also didn't give up Stockton a lot of opportunities on the power play. They only had 3 on Friday, one of which was in the dying moments of the game when, it was don't want to say completely over, but Laval was a pretty heavy favorite to win that game in the last few minutes. Although I will say that Friday's game was not well officiated from a call the penalties as you see them aspect. This was very much a let the boys play kind of game. And even by those standards, I thought they let way too much go. Overall, neither offense really managed to do much Friday. The pace was good. Play kept moving, but neither team really generated any high danger chances with any regularity. There weren't a lot of odd man rushes. There wasn't a whole lot of excitement factor, but play was moving. It wasn't a slow, grinding trap kind of game. So a little more of an ugly win for Laval, but I still definitely think they were the best team on the ice that night.
And sagging from Friday night to Saturday night, let's talk about that 4-2 win with an empty netter at the end. So if you look beyond the surface level score and you go a little deeper on paper, it looks like it was a closer game. Oh, Sunday. Sorry about that.
Yep, that's all right.
I'm used to Friday, Saturdays. So
yeah, I know. They're all weekend days. It's fine. They're interchangeable. But yeah, it looks like a closer game on paper, but it really wasn't. It was a 3-2 win with an empty netter, but it was also 3-0 at one point in the third. And Laval's forecheck kick Stockton hemmed in their own zone for minutes at a time. Absolutely dominated the first period. Garrett Sparks is the only reason this game wasn't much worse on the score sheet for Stockton. At least that's what I could gather from the glitchy time travel filled adventure that was the game tape on AHL TV of this game.
Oh, of course.
It got better as the game went on, but the first period was just, it was a zoo. I want to say there are probably 4 minutes in the middle of that first period that are just lost in space. But Stockton looked better in the second, despite getting into penalty trouble. But even when it was 3-1, Stockton was still getting hemmed in its own zone with 6 minutes left in the game. It wasn't until they got a face-off in Laval's end with about 3.5 minutes left and pulled Sparks that they actually started to generate what looked like consistent offensive pressure in the zone. It just really felt like Laval was never in danger of losing this game, even when it was briefly 3-2. They controlled the pace. They controlled the flow. They dominated possession. This was a very much Laval doing what Laval has done to everyone else this season and just enacting their will on this game. And Garrett Sparks made it look like a closer game than I feel like it was.
It's amazing what good, if not adequate, goaltending can help with. So also, I found it interesting, Laval's playing out of the Bell Center there in Montreal, and you would think it would just be a plug in, flick of the switch to switch over, all of the cameras to AHL TV. But, it's not like they're playing out of a training facility in El Segundo, California, like the Ontario Reign. It's like this is an arena that's normally wired for live TV broadcasting. And so the fact that you've had glitchy issues with AHL TV and that, I guess I shouldn't be surprised because 2021, this is what we're dealing with. And, if something will go wrong, it will, but I don't know, just a little sidebar there about, you figure it's the Bell Center, it's an NHL arena, and you'd think the broadcast wouldn't be an issue, but I digress. Are there any positives for the Stockton Heat of Calgary to take away from this weekend set?
Sparks played well. I don't think Zagadulin played bad per se. Philp and Ruzicka are still out there trying to make something happen. And we said that we expected them to cool off a bit from, the torrid pace they were scoring on after those first two games. But I don't think we thought they'd go this cold. And that's what it looks like to me when I watch them. It's not, they're just playing worse or they were getting lucky before and that's caught up with them. Yes, they were getting lucky before and that more pucks were going in than probably should have, but they earned those chances. And I still see them going out there, making good things happen. It's not clicking at quite the same pace it was or the same frequency as you saw earlier in the season. But also pucks just aren't going in for them. Mama said there would be days like this for the two of them. I think that eventually we will start to see that swing back in the other direction, but also too, I think like we've kind of beaten to death here. Fatigue is definitely looking like a factor for them of just being run into the ground, playing, 18 minutes a night, 17 minutes a night for 15 nights out of the last 30.
Yeah. Not much more I can say about that. Any closing thoughts on the Stockton Laval series?
Yeah, outside of Philip and Ruzicka, the rest of the team looks like it just hit a wall for the Heat. Hopefully a homestand against Belleville and a few days off after this Laval series will help them hit that reset button, kind of get right. I hate that we keep picking on Belleville and saying, well, that's a get right series if there ever was one, but somebody's got to be that team. And even though Belleville has looked better recently, I think they have at least, I think it's 4 days off before the start of that series, between the end of Laval's game tomorrow and the start of Belleville's game. Hopefully that will allow them to kind of, rest, relax, hit up the hot tub, try and get the blood flowing again, because that Laval team in early March was a lot of fun to watch, a lot of fun. And I'm hoping to get to watch games like that again, where they play Laval to an absolute just road show. We've also thought of Laval as being a team that wins with offense generated off the rush and counterattack, but that really wasn't how they scored this weekend. They very much generated offense off the cycle in this series, which only adds to the scary nature of how good Laval is. They're able to win games when they're plan A, offense off the rush, counterattack, forecheck pressure isn't really working out for them, and they can win games and be dangerous in low event, physical, cycle based games. And they're still getting Cole Caulfield. Good luck, Canada. Good luck.
Good luck. Oh, you're going to need it. That's for sure.
Also, one last bit here.
Sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
We have a goalie pool 6-pack challenge update.
Oh, here we go.
Cale McLean earns a second 6-pack on the season. Down by 2 on Friday, McLean pulls Zagadulin with 4 minutes and 10 seconds left. It's way over the mark of 350 that we set for being down by 2. Good for him for having the guts to go for it. Please email or DM us to claim your 6-pack. We can get it through customs, I promise.
Now, since he's done it for 2 times this year and he hasn't claimed his first one, if he claims it, does he get a 12-pack instead?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming he's going to claim both simultaneously. I suppose if he really just wants one, that's sure. But I am currently in debt of 12 beers of Cale McLean's choosing. So we will see what happens, but we're good for it. Send us a message where you want them. What do you want? And we will get those beers to you. Keep pulling your goalie early, folks.
Yes, exactly. And, I hope one of these days we get an AHL media director that goes, hey, by the way,
I'm ready. Like, this is not a joke.
No, it's not.
Which I know from us is a stretch at least, but very serious. We'll send beer.
Yes, we will, because Sean is all about the early goalie poll and how analytically beneficial it is for your team to do that. So there you have it. Alrighty. Well, we've covered those 3 series from the weekend. I'm feeling a little madness coming on. Yeah. Ooh, I need to get Miss Elizabeth by my side because we are about to take on the cream of the crop. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Can you feel the macho madness streaming through the podcast? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, hey, we'll take a quick break. We'll get some sponsors in. I'll let my voice rest a little bit, just a little bit, and we'll be right back. Okay, last but not least, it's time. It is time. If you're lactose intolerant, be careful. Take a pill because it's time for some cream of the crop. Yeah. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it, the madness? Yeah. That was restrained madness. All right. It is time for our picks of the 3 best players in the AHL for the week, at least according to us, and at least according to that little top layer there, the cream of the crop. Yeah. Sean, your first player for the cream of the crop.
I'm going with the Laval Rocket. And Raphael Harvey-Pinard, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points on the weekend against Stockton. One of those is an empty netter, but he managed to still be one of the most impressive players for Laval over the course of the weekend, making offense happen, using his skating and his ability to win battles in corners, to stick handle down low and tight. Like, he is someone who I think the Habs are going to, have in their bottom 6 at worst for the foreseeable future after this season, I think.
And my first, I was about to say star, but we're dealing with cream here. So my first player for the cream of the crop is Lehigh Valley's Tyson Forster. So on Wednesday, I know it doesn't count for the weekend, but after a 2-goal, 2-assist outing on Wednesday's 4-1 win over Hershey, contributing on all 4 points in that affair, he scores 2 goals and has the only tally in the shootout in Lehigh Valley's 5-4 shootout win, of course, over Wilkes-Barre Scranton. And if that isn't impressive, I mean, it was only one game, but hey, when you score 2 goals and the shootout winner, that gives you a little bit of cream in the crop, if you know what I'm saying. Oh, yeah. Sean, second star.
For me, I'm going to Belleville here, and I'm taking Igor Sokolov, who in their one game this weekend had a hat trick against the Marlies. You score a hat trick, you're pretty much locking up a spot in the cream of the crop. And Belleville, desperately needing offense. So I'm taking Igor Sokolov, hat trick against Toronto, 3 goals, no assists, 1 game.
My second cream of the crop is none other than the Tucson Roadrunners, Tyler Steenbergen. And he's had a big drop-off, a big points drought this season. But then he scores 2 goals, including the game-winning goal in the third period, to help the Tucson Roadrunners beat the Henderson Silver Knights 4-2 in Henderson's just their 4th loss of the season. And if anybody really appreciates somebody breaking a drought, like I said last week, it is the Macho Man, Randy Savage, my second player for the cream of the crop. Feel the madness. Oh, yeah. Sean, who's your third cream of the crop player for this week?
My third cream of the crop player is Vinny Lettieri from the San Diego Gulls. 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points on the weekend, all primary points, by the way. So all 3 of those assists, he was the primary assist giver. And while that may not sound like it matters, primary assists are a much more repeatable event than secondary assists. So that makes them a little more special to me. So that's how I kind of helped delineate between a lot of guys on the Gulls this weekend who had pretty good weekends, but I got to tip it to Vinny Lettieri. All primary points, 4 points in 2 games, cream of the crop.
Damn good player out there in the Pacific Division. Can't argue with that. My pick, I actually got this in before the announcement came in for player of the week in the AHL. Iowa's Hunter Jones, much maligned here on the podcast. Sean is befuddled if you're not watching the video. Yeah, he is my pick for the third and final guy for the cream of the crop. 37 save shutout on Friday. Who is this guy? Against the Texas Stars. He finishes the weekend with 58 saves out of 60 shots on goal and 2 wins. He doubles his win total that he had all season. And like you were saying, Sean, before the show, posted probably the only 2 games where he had over a 900 plus save percentage. So yeah, like I said, doubles his win total after a stellar performance this weekend that was acknowledged by the AHL, like I said, after my pick. And man, I tell you, on balance, off balance, it did not matter because Hunter Jones, third player for the cream of the crop, he was from the bottom to the top. Nothing could stop him. Nothing could stop him.
And I will admit that I have not seen those games yet from Hunter Jones, but I'm eager to because I remember when I saw that on AHL.com this morning, I'm like, is there another Hunter Jones? Are we talking about the same Hunter Jones who's been awful this year? And yes, we were talking about that same Hunter Jones. So I did not get to watch those games over the weekend, but I think I'm going to be trying to cue them up here in the next couple days because I I think that's just unbelievable. I genuinely don't believe it.
Oh yeah, no, me neither. I was kind of going over the stats for the weekend before I was putting my picks in this morning, and I'm like, wait, Hunter Jones? I mean, I saw that he had that 37 save shutout. I'm like, oh, well, good for him. I'm glad he got over the hump in that regard. But yeah, it's just 58 saves on 60 shots for the weekend. Good on you, bud. Well deserved. Okay, Sean. Well, we are wrapping it up, and you're doing the excellent Smithers fingers. For those not watching at home, it's time for the quiz, and you're dusting off an old favorite here again.
I absolutely am. We haven't done this one for quite a while. I actually had to look up when the last time that we pulled out the time warp was, and it has certainly been a while. So, Cece. So for those who are unfamiliar with how the time warp works here, I am going to give CC the choice of a year between 2013-14 and 2018-19. And CC is going to have, he's going to pick a year, and I'm going to give him a game in that year. And I'm going to say, the Hershey Bears are playing the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. And I'm going to give him a player, and he has to tell me which side that player played for, or which team he played for in that year. We're going to do the best of 5. So you need 3 out of 5 here, CC. Are you ready?
Ready as I'm ever going to be. Let's do it.
All right. You tell me where you want to go. Any year between 13-14 and 18-19.
Hey, let's start off in 18-19. I don't want to go back too far.
All right. 18-19. The Charlotte Checkers are playing the San Jose Barracuda. What side is Trevor Carrick on?
18-19. Barracuda. Charlotte Checkers. Final answer.
That is a successful time warp.
Hey.
CC is on the board.
One
All
down,
right, CC.
2 to go. Here we go. Yes, I need to pick another category. Let's do 16-17. Feels right.
All right. 16-17. The Syracuse Crunch are playing the Rochester Americans. What side is goalie Adam Wilcox on?
I'm going to say Rochester Americans. Final answer.
I'm sorry, that is not correct, CC. He was on Syracuse. All right.
Okay. All right.
One for 2.
1 for 2. There we go. All right. Third question. Let's go 13-14. We'll throw it back.
All the way back. All right.
All the way back. Yep. Let's do it.
2013-14. The Abbotsford Heat are playing the Lake Erie Monsters. What side is Ben Street on?
The Abbotsford Heat. Final answer.
That is a successful time warp. CC is 2 for 3.
Okay.
All right.
Question 4. I got 2 questions to get this. Let's go 15-16.
All right. The year is 2015-16. The Texas Stars are playing the Ontario Reign. What side is Jack Campbell on?
Oh, Jack Campbell. Oh, who did he play for? I picked 15-16, right?
You did. 2015-16. Texas Stars, Ontario Reign.
I want to say that was close to his Idaho Steelheads career, being from Boise and all, of course, as many of you know. I'm going to say Texas Stars. Final answer.
We have a winner!
Woo!
All right, CC. That is
Get
your
down.
first victory in a little bit here. Getting back in the W column. You have a completely made up amount of time. What's going on in CC land that you would like to talk to America and Canada and apparently some of Ireland about?
Hey, when you do a whole show in an Irish accent, you're bound to get some viewers from over there. So it's bound to happen. But Sean and I were talking last week, and he says, "Hey, I'm getting my first COVID-19 vaccine on Monday." And I'm like, "Really? Because guess when I'm getting my first COVID vaccine on?" He goes, "Monday?" Yep. So oddly enough, Sean and I, as we're filming and recording this on Monday evening, we both have our COVID vaccine. Here we go. There's that Band-Aid. Showing off the Band-Aids. Oh, there we go. There we go. Come on, get it. There we go. A little more peach colored than my blue, although the blue matches the shirt stuff I'm wearing, so that works out well. But yeah, Sean and I got vaccinated today, our first dose, and I'm going to get my second shot 3 weeks from now. Sean will get his 4 weeks from now. And, I'm very glad that I did it. I'm a little tired. The arm's a little sore. I've been told to move it around so it's not as sore, but, I will say I have a really good friend who has chosen not to get the vaccine. And, because of that, I kind of just wanted to address that real quick and say, I can understand why, because it has been developed. It obviously they want to make sure that all the safety precautions, all the precautions and the safety measures are taken and put in place to do so. And so I also can see the other side of the coin in the fact that, yes, we are in the middle of a global pandemic, and they have, obviously they've done their due diligence and everything like that to make sure that this is the safest vaccine. But this friend of mine still has some concerns. Their father, took a cholesterol drug, a couple years, kind of in the trial phase and everything like that. And so they're a little, they're a little hesitant. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I would really advocate for everyone to go get the vaccine. I would. Am I going to hold it against you if you don't? Well, no, but I think if your reasons are valid and they're justified in a way that is rational and not off base, I think that's your prerogative. And I think that's what's great about, obviously this country, freedom of choice and everything like that. But if it were up to me, to have everyone vaccinated, it'd be great. But again, it is your choice, and I can't take that away from you. Whatever reservations you have about it, it's definitely something that I can't force, and nobody can force on you. And, whatever, crazy things may be believed about this, we still have that freedom of choice to get it or not. But however, like I said, Sean and I, we got the vaccine today. Going to show off that Band-Aid again, that beautiful blue Band-Aid, and we'll be getting our second here in a few weeks so that we may have that burden lifted off our shoulders to go forth into the general public. And of course, just still kind of put people at ease and wear our masks out in public, I'd imagine, if I'm speaking out of turn. Okay. I figured as much, but that's my kind of windy rant about the COVID-19 vaccine and my good friend and my good friend Sean, who also got it today in a very odd coincidence and parallel in our lives. We couldn't have planned that if we tried, seriously. So there you have it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Cece. That is it for the show this week. If you guys are enjoying the show, please make sure to subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, please rate and review the podcast wherever you are listening to it from. Or if you're watching it on YouTube, like the video and comment what you thought of the episode. Doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. You can also follow the show on social media, which I highly recommend. We post some pretty decent memes on there. At Calder Farmstead on Twitter, at the Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Links to all of that and more can be found on our link tree, which is linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. All of our social links are all the way at the bottom. We have all the podcast links up there towards the top. CC, where can people find your work?
Well, my name is CC Hockley, and you can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL and at my personal Twitter account at CCHawk. That's SEESEEHAWK. I'd say a good 75-80% of it is hockey, but hey, like you, if you were following me late last night, I did tweet a little music tweet out. I do chime in about pro wrestling every now and again too. And so, yeah, I do tweet about other stuff too, but it's mainly going to be about hockey. So give me a follow if you so desire. I would really appreciate it. And check out my writing on the Full Press Coverage Network at www.fullpresshockey.com. And of course, the Calder Farmstead is a part of the Full Press Radio Network. Check out our program. Continue to check out our program, rather, and a bunch of other great hockey podcasts, great sports and sports entertainment programs at Full Press Coverage, www.fullpresscoverage.com. Shawnee.
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien81. That's SeanObrien 81. I'm also on an Instagram account that is incredibly, improving on a day-to-day basis almost. At Sean O'Brien _81. You can find my stats work. So if you're interested in the PDO stuff that we talk about occasionally, or the point shares model, or any of the other analytics that I produce for the AHL, you can find all of that on my Tableau page at bit.ly/data-dump-and-chase. All lowercase, all one word. Big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our awesome theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction. That's DYSFUNCTION. So he can make music for you too. Cece, take us home.
That is it for episode number 26 of the Calder Farmstead. For Sean O'Brien, I'm Cece Hockley. We thank you for listening once again. And as always, keep your stick on the ice.